Greetings once again from Betrayal Secrets. We appreciate your steadfast support. Which town are you currently in? We're intrigued about the places these secrets lead you to. Today, we delve into a tale of infidelity involving a wife. I'm Theodore. A year ago, if someone had inquired about my marriage, I would have smiled and confidently stated that it was strong. I had faith in what we shared. I had faith in the strong base we had established. For years, I concentrated on what lay ahead. I dedicated myself completely to the growth of my business, venturing into new cities, forging connections, and securing our financial future. It was quite a challenge. Countless nights stretched on, tiresome journeys unfolded, and negotiations seemed to never cease. There were weeks when I found myself absent for days, and at times, even longer stretches of time. Yet, each sacrifice seemed justified, as it was all for our shared journey. Or at least, that was my impression. Life often has a peculiar knack for appending your plans just when you believe you've got it all sorted out. The instant that broke my reality arrived without any forewarning. I didn't see that coming. The truth arrived unexpectedly, harsh and relentless. And when it finally arrived, it struck me with an intensity one never imagined could exist. The day lingers in my memory with striking clarity. I found myself on a business trip, and everything was unfolding smoothly. Agreements were being settled, strategies were unfolding, and in my thoughts, I was envisioning my homecoming, picturing a serene evening with my wife, Eleanor. Though fatigue weighed heavily on me, a sense of fulfillment lingered, as I recognized that each sleepless night and every extended hour was a step towards a brighter tomorrow for us. Suddenly, my phone began to ring. It was William, a familiar face from the past. Yet, as soon as his voice reached my ears, an unsettling feeling washed over me. He paused, his voice wavering, imbued with a heaviness that churned my stomach. "Theodore, I need to share something with you, even though I'm not sure if I should. It's been weighing on me, and I can't hold it in any longer." I paused, breath caught in my throat. "Theodore, I just encountered Eleanor. She emerged from the hotel, accompanied by another man." Stillness. The words danced around in my mind, elusive and difficult to grasp. For a moment, I questioned whether I had truly understood him. Perhaps an error occurred. Perhaps he was referring to another person. However, William was not the type to make light of a situation like this. I captured some images. Theodore. Uncertainty lingered in my mind, accompanied by an unsettling intuition. "I will send those to you right away." A moment later, my phone vibrated. As I opened the message, a sense of rigidity gripped my fingers. And there it stood, a vision that transformed everything. Eleanor, my partner, exiting a hotel. She had company. A figure loomed next to her. In that instant, my universe shattered completely. It fell apart. However, I remained unresponsive. Not at this moment. I chose not to call her. I remained silent. I simply gazed at the visuals, my thoughts unwilling to acknowledge the reality laid out before me. "Theodore, are you present?" William's voice drew me in once more. "Indeed, I am present." I compelled my voice to remain unwavering. "I really didn't want to be the one to break this to you. However, it was essential for you to be informed." I gave a silent nod, even though he was unaware of it. He was completely unaware of the implications this held for me. I have no clue. In that instant, all my beliefs seemed to come undone, and beneath the surface, I came to a profound realization. He was indeed correct. I had to find out. Now that I've taken that step, what should my next move be? I lingered, fixated on my phone screen, the visuals searing into my memory. My heart raced within me, yet my hands felt like ice. Every part of me yearned to find an alternative reason, an error of some sort, a Satan sort of confusion. Yet, beneath the surface, the truth was already clear to me. Eleanor, the one I had cherished, the one I had confided in completely, had deceived me. William's voice reached me through the queue, yet his words slipped away, becoming mere echoes in the distance. The clamor of my thoughts drowned out everything, while my emotions twisted into a complex knot. When I finally discovered my voice, it felt unfamiliar, as if I were expressing thoughts from beyond my own being. "Thank you, William." That was everything I could muster before I ended the call. I ought to have felt anger. Seething, indeed. Yet, all I experienced was a profound numbness. The treachery struck hard, An unexpected blow. It was overwhelming, and I found it hard to take it all in at once. Instead, I found myself in my hotel room, gazing at the city lights, thoughts swirling in my mind. For how long had this been unfolding? How often had she engaged in this while I was absent, laboring for our future? Was everything we shared just an illusion? That night, sleep eluded me. Instead, I found myself immersed in the photos, revisiting them time and again, on a quest for something, perhaps a hint, a nuance, a detail, that could ease the impact. Yet the reality remained unchanged. It remained steadfast, refusing to yield for my convenience. The onslaught was unyielding. As dawn broke, I found clarity in my choice. I had no intention of asking questions. I had no intention of pleading for clarity or wading through deceit. I had to witness her expression when she understood that I was aware. I had to find out if she would deceive me, even at that moment. I decided to secure an earlier flight back home. The return trip seemed almost dreamlike. I navigated the airport, passed through security, and endured the plane ride, all in a daze, as if I were in a trance. The journey from the airport to our home was a blur in my memory. All I understood was that I had to arrive, immediately. I failed to make a call in advance. I did not send a message. As I stepped inside, my eyes fell upon her, standing right there. Eleanor stood in the kitchen, humming softly, chopping vegetables with a calmness that belied the chaos surrounding me, as if nothing had shifted, as if the world hadn't just crumbled around us. She pivoted, her expression brightening with a radiant smile. "You're home, Ailey," she re-Williamed, drying her hands with a towel. "How did your journey go?" Her voice flowed effortlessly, a gentle ease to it. She was completely unaware. I compelled myself to smile, compelled myself to react as if everything was fine. It was acceptable. I observed her intently, analyzing each gesture, each look. Was she with him last night? Did she ponder him, while lingering in our kitchen, feigning the devoted spouse? She wandered about, recounting her day, blissfully ignorant of the impending storm. And then, at the moment she was least prepared for it, I uttered the words, "Access your device." The words lingered in the atmosphere, daring anyone to respond. For the first time since my arrival, Eleanor paused. The smile wavered. The atmosphere shifted. Her fingers danced momentarily, but she regained her composure swiftly, releasing a soft chuckle. "Excuse me. What is the reason?" she inquired, attempting to adopt a light-hearted tone. I chose not to respond. I simply observed her. She shook her head, a smile still plastered on her face. "Theodore, let's go. This is absurd." Yet, I remained silent. I extended my hand with quiet determination. I felt a sense of tranquility, excessively tranquil, and she was aware of it. The silence lingered, heavy with things left unsaid. At that moment, I laid my eyes on it for the very first time. The glimmer of trepidation in her gaze. She was aware, and she was aware that I was aware. The kitchen lay in stillness. The only sound was the gentle hum of the refrigerator, accompanied by the faint ticking of the clock in the distance. Eleanor remained motionless, her gaze flickering between me and the phone I held out to her. The whimsical facade she attempted to maintain was faltering, revealing a glimpse of something raw and vulnerable, a flicker of panic. "What's with your behavior?" she inquired, stifling another anxious chuckle. "Can you really not have faith in me after everything we've been through?" I have yet to reply. I gently grasped her phone, my fingers subtly tightening around the device as it rested between us. "Open it up." Her arms were crossed over her chest, a feeble gesture of defiance. "This is utterly absurd, Theodore." I chose to stay quiet. She shifted on her feet, her throat tightening as she swallowed hard. I observed her thoughts racing, searching for a reason, a diversion, anything to redirect the dialogue from its current trajectory. "What has come over you? What makes you think I would have an answer to that?" I exhaled slowly, maintaining a calm and steady voice, as I felt the need to witness it firsthand. Her fingers danced with anticipation. Her breath caught just a bit. In that instant, clarity washed over me. If she truly had nothing to conceal, she would have opened it without a moment's pause. However, she chose not to. She hesitated. She attempted to shift the focus onto me, portraying me as the one being unreasonable. I moved in a bit, raising the phone to bridge the gap between us. My voice sank to a deeper register. Eleanor accessed the phone. Now, her complexion faded to a pallid hue. For an extended pause, she remained still, contemplating her choices. With trembling hands, she extended her arm and grasped the phone from my grasp. Her fingers lingered above the screen, pausing for a moment longer than necessary before she ultimately input the code. The display came to life, and that was everything it required. The initial sight that greeted me was a cascade of unread messages, a mix from a familiar contact and others from an unfamiliar number. My chest constricted as I selected one. Next, another. Next, another one. Everything was present. Provocative writings, images, visual narratives, dialogues rich with personal nuances, moments I had believed were exclusively ours. Yet, the most heartrending aspect, she had shared with him the same type of images she once shared with me. The identical words, the same tone, the same playful messages intended to keep me aware of what awaited me at home. But they weren't solely meant for me. My heart raced in my ears as I sifted through the messages. Booking accommodations, conversations that stretch into the early hours, discusses the simplicity of misleading me, how I was perpetually occupied, excessively trusting, oblivious to everything around. My stomach churned. Eleanor sank into the couch, her hands covering her face as waves of sobs shook her frame. "Theodore, if you could." She inhaled sharply, struggling to catch her breath. I never intended for this to occur." I remained silent. I felt a profound sense of isolation. She wept more intensely. "You were always absent." I simply erred. An error. That was her term for it. I gazed at her intently, at the woman I had once thought would be my eternal companion. She trembled, tears streaming down her cheeks, fervently attempting to articulate her thoughts. Yet, I found myself not paying attention. I had witnessed all that was essential to witness. With careful precision, I moved the messages, the photos, and the videos to my own device. Each fragment of proof, each act of treachery, each deception, preserved. Then, with the same calmness I had used to request her to unlock the phone, I placed it gently on the table between us. Eleanor lifted her gaze, her eyes brimming with tears as they sought something in my expression. Compassion. Letting go. Perhaps an opportunity to clarify. She discovered nothing. When I finally found my voice, it was icier than I had ever imagined. "Your excuses are unnecessary." I pivoted sharply and strode past her, heading directly to the bedroom. I retrieved a suitcase and started to pack my belongings. Apparel, written materials, the fundamentals, all I required to step through that threshold and leave it all behind. Eleanor trailed behind me, her voice filled with urgency. "Theodore, if you would be so kind, please refrain from this action." I chose to overlook her. It held no significance. "I love you," she exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. The phrases felt empty. I closed my suitcase with a swift motion, took my keys in hand, and without a second look at the woman who once held my heart, I stepped out the door. I did not raise my voice. I remained silent. I didn't even shut the door with force as I left. When you've genuinely moved on from someone, there's no need for theatrics. Just go. The evening breeze was invigorating as I ventured into the night. I chose not to look back. I chose not to glance back at the dwelling that had once embraced me as its own. I continued my stride, clutching the suitcase handle tightly, as the heaviness of conclusion pressed against my heart. As I settled into my car, I turned the key in the ignition and smoothly drove away from the driveway. My mind elsewhere. My mind was elsewhere, oblivious to my destination. At that moment, my mind was elsewhere, far from thoughts of Eleanor's actions. My mind was fixated on a singular thought. This is finished. I truly meant it. Upon arriving at my temporary flat, I found my phone buzzing with a flurry of missed calls. Eleanor. Once more, and yet again. Urgent pleas, heartfelt regrets. I chose not to respond. I didn't bother to read them at all. I chose to block her number instead. If she has something to express, she can do so via my attorney. The following morning, I initiated the first call of my new journey. I am seeking to initiate divorce proceedings. Without delay. And that was what set us apart. She had responded spontaneously. Impulsive, self-centered, thoughtless. I moved with intention. In a clear manner. No lengthy discussions would take place. No sentimental reflections. No final efforts to resolve the situation. I had no desire to listen to any justifications. I had no desire for resolution. My sole focus was on liberation. My attorney clarified everything. Avoid superfluous meetings. Avoid any form of emotional coercion. No prolonged discussions or negotiations. A simple, unembellished separation. For the first time in months, I found the freedom to breathe. However, the pain didn't vanish in an instant. There were mornings when I awoke to the void beside me in bed. Evenings when I found my hand instinctively reaching for my phone to message her, only to recall that the well of words had run dry. The burden of betrayal lingered, refusing to dissipate. It hung there, a weight pressing down on my heart. Yet, I was faced with a decision. This could be my downfall. The bitterness could consume me entirely, allow it to engulf me, or I could transform every bit of suffering into something meaningful. That's precisely what I accomplished. I immersed myself in my craft with unwavering dedication. The growth I had envisioned, I brought to fruition. And swiftly. I didn't merely relocate to new cities. I transformed every aspect of my existence. I let go of the past and began pursuing what lies ahead. Day by day, the weight of what had happened grew lighter. Not because time magically healed anything, but because I made a conscious choice to heal. Months passed. One morning, I looked in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back at me. Stronger, smarter, wealthier. By then, the divorce was almost finalized. It had dragged on longer than necessary because Eleanor wanted more. She thought she was entitled to more than I was willing to give. But she was wrong. The best part, I felt nothing for her anymore. No anger, no sadness, no love, just indifference. And indifference, my friends, is the best revenge of all. Months had passed. I had built a new life. One without Eleanor, without the weight of betrayal dragging me down. My business was thriving. My mind was clearer than it had been in years, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Then, one night, everything shifted again. It was late, well past dinner. I had just wrapped up a long day of work, and was looking forward to a hot shower and some much-needed sleep. The city outside was quiet, wrapped in the stillness of the evening. And then, a knock at the door. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. But something in me, the same instinct that had told me to check my phone that day, urged me to see who it was. So I pulled open the door. And there she was. Eleanor. She stood on my doorstep under the dim porch light, her eyes red-rimmed and swollen, her face streaked with tears. But that wasn't what shocked me. It was her stomach. Round, heavy, pregnant. For a few seconds, I just stared, my mind completely blank. And then she broke down completely. Between gasping sobs, she poured out her story. How she had spent months crying herself to sleep, haunted by regret. How she had realized too late that she had thrown away something irreplaceable. I never stopped loving you, Theodore. I was so lost. I let loneliness push me into making stupid choices. I wish I could take everything back. And then, the final blow. Theodore, this is your baby. She said it like a lifeline, as if she truly believed those words would pull me back to her. She wanted another chance. She wanted us to be a family again. She promised that this time, she would be faithful. That she had changed. I stood there, listening, watching, and for a brief second, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I reminded myself, she wasn't here because she loved me. She was here because she needed something. I let her finish. Let her pour out every apology, every carefully crafted plea meant to tug at my heartstrings. And when she finally stopped, looking up at me with hopeful, teary eyes, I simply nodded and said, "All right, let's get a DNA test." The second those words left my mouth, her entire face changed. The tears stopped. The panic set in. "What?" she stammered, letting out a nervous laugh. "Theodore, how could you even ask me that? You think I would lie about something like this?" I didn't answer. I just looked at her, waiting. She kept talking, her voice rising, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate attempt to regain control. "You should trust me. You always trusted me before. Asking for a test is an insult. Theodore, it's like you never really loved me at all." And right then and there, I knew. I saw right through her. If she had nothing to hide, she wouldn't be afraid. If she was certain this child was mine, She would have agreed in an instant. But she didn't. She fought it. I took a deep breath, stepped back, and rested my hand on the door. "If you won't take the test," I said calmly, "I have nothing to say to you." And then, without waiting for another word, I closed the door in her face. I stood by the door for a moment after closing it, listening to the silence that followed. No more sobbing, no more pleas, just stillness. Then, after what felt like a lifetime, I heard her footsteps retreat into the night. I exhaled slowly. I had thought I had seen the worst of Eleanor's deceit. I was wrong. Months passed. I continued living my life, focusing on my business, my goals, and the freedom I had earned. I didn't think about her anymore, not in anger, not in sadness. She was nothing more than a closed chapter. Then, out of nowhere, I was served with a lawsuit. Eleanor was taking me to court. Her claim, that I was abandoning my child, the same child she had refused to take a DNA test for. The irony wasn't lost on me. In her version of the story, she was the victim. She told the court that I had cruelly walked out on her when she needed me the most, that I had refused to take responsibility, leaving her alone to suffer. It was a well-crafted sob story. She cried. She sniffled. She played her part perfectly. To someone who didn't know the truth, she looked like a woman who had been betrayed, a woman who had loved too deeply and had been abandoned by the man she trusted. There was just one problem. She was lying. What she didn't realize was that I was no longer the man she could manipulate. I had the money. I had the resources. And most importantly, I had the will to fight back. So, I did what any man in my position would do. I hired the best lawyers in the city. Not just any lawyers, specialists. Professionals who had built their careers tearing apart manipulative spouses in court. And Eleanor, she was just another case for them. The trial was brutal. My legal team wasted no time dismantling her claims. They presented the evidence. Her affair, her refusal to take the DNA test, her blatant attempts at extortion. They exposed how she had twisted the truth, manipulating the legal system to make herself look like the victim. Every lie she told was countered with hard facts. Every tearful performance was met with undeniable truth. By the time my lawyers were done, there was no doubt left about who Eleanor really was. The courtroom that had once been filled with sympathetic whispers about the abandoned pregnant woman was now filled with hushed murmurs of her deceit. She had no defense, no way to justify her actions. She had come to court hoping to ruin me. But in the end, she had only ruined herself. The judge didn't just rule in my favor. He went a step further. A cease and desist order was issued against her, forbidding her from contacting me in any way. She had lost, publicly, and there was no coming back from this. As I walked out of that courtroom, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I only felt relief. Because now, without a doubt, I knew. I had made the right decision. I had walked away from her once, and I would never look back. As I stepped out of the courtroom, I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the past finally slip from my shoulders. Eleanor was no longer my problem. She had tried to manipulate me, to twist the truth, to use guilt as a weapon. But in the end, the truth had won. I had no anger left for her. No sadness. No regret. Only indifference. And indifference, my friends, is the best revenge of all. I walked away that day knowing one thing. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them the first time. Life is a way of teaching us lessons the hard way. I ignored the warning signs. I trusted blindly, and I paid the price. But I also learned that walking away is sometimes the greatest power you have. Some people don't come back out of love. They come back out of desperation. And if you let them in, they will destroy you all over again. What do you think? Would you have handled it the same way? Or do you believe in second chances? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you made it to the end, thank you. Your support means everything. See you in the next story.